Hey guys, so today is Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, currently 2:45 in the afternoon. There are limited options. Getting out by boat is not a viable option. They are a target. Getting out by plane is not an option at this point because the airport is closed. There were more missile strikes last night, middle of the night. It is a better choice to get out of Qatar and get out as soon as possible, and so that is happening right now. I have something set up that is as good as an option as I could hope for at this point, but first I need to just get to the border on my own. So I'm heading south. The ultimate destination is hopefully to get to Oman. I certainly won't make it there tonight, probably not even tomorrow, but I will most likely be getting into the United Arab Emirates hopefully today if things go as planned. We shall see. Here we go. So here you can see Al-Ain Oasis. So I need to get other side of this somehow, and then it should quiet down. I guess this is it, but I should get away from a lot of the buildings and get into a nice quiet park area. All right, so I guess this is getting me inside the oasis. It is a very pleasant area. So let's go for a walk and talk. Even though I'm tired, I'm frazzled, and this is gonna be a long one, but I will do my best to explain all that occurred over the past day. So when I filmed the previous video that I posted yesterday, just a 10-minute clip of me talking about the general situation, kind of the same stuff that I started this video with about the missiles, etc., then I actually already knew what was going to happen next as far as my getaway plan, but I didn't want to get into it at the time. So shortly after, I got a message from somebody about the situation with the interceptor missiles. This was late in the night before last. I was just getting ready to go to bed, and I got an email from somebody offering to pick me up, somebody who lives in Abu Dhabi. So that is, of course, a big offer, and my first, thought was, how legitimate is this? How trustworthy is this person? Now, fortunately, then he had attached to his message to me an old correspondence of ours from a year ago, in which, as many of you know, I've written some books, and when people sign up for my Patreon page or send me a random donation of 20, 30 bucks, whatever, then I will send back my ebooks. And so he had either signed up for Patreon or sent me a couple bucks or whatever, and I sent him my ebooks, and then he'd responded and said, thanks, I enjoy your videos, etc. And so this was attached to his message with his offer, and so that gave me a lot of reassurance that this wasn't somebody who had just come across my recent videos about, the situation going on now here, but this was somebody who had actually followed my channel for a bit. You are here, wherever exactly here is. Do you remember a time without me? Who is me? I don't know. Anyways, so that was greatly reassuring that this could be a trustworthy person and a potential way to get out. I wasn't ready to say, yeah, great, let's do it at that time. I wrote back and said, this could work, let's be in touch tomorrow. So the next day, I had another flight booked for that night out of Doha airport. And the hope was that with the Dubai and Abu Dhabi airports opening up, that Doha might follow. But the next day, that did not appear to be happening. I checked the Qatar Airways update and they said, we'll just post another update tomorrow. And so I had no reason to think that this flight was going to go that night. And then coupled with the information about the possibility of the interceptor missiles running out, and just generally feeling kind of stuck there, in which I had no other options at that point other than waiting and hoping for the airport to open up, which it could be days, it could be weeks. And so it just all around made sense to get out of there. And so I wrote Mohammed back and said, yeah, I think I want to go for this. When would you be available to start driving from your end out to me in Doha? So he'd offered to pick me up in Doha. I said, what might work better is I'll meet you on the other side of the border in Saudi Arabia. And so he said, I can be ready to go ASAP. Like, I'm ready to roll now. And so I said, great, do it, go for it, get, ready to go, whatever you need to do, and then let me know when you're actually driving. And so for him, it was going to be a 5-hour drive from Abu Dhabi to the border of Saudi Arabia and Qatar. For me, it was only a 1-hour drive from Doha to the border. But I had no idea what was going to happen at that border, and so I figured it made sense for me to get a head start. So he lets me know he's driving, and I tell him I'm in the process of getting ready, getting packed here, and I'll let you know when I take off. And so I basically got, packed up and ready to go as quick as possible, and then went down to the lobby, checked out, and tried to call an Uber. Not sure if an Uber would necessarily be, willing to take a person to the border, but sure enough, it comes up right away. Within a minute, a car is there, and I'm in the car heading for the border. The driver was a really nice guy from Sri Lanka. We make the hour drive, and then things get confusing at the border as far as where he can drop me. No need for the hat with all this shade from the palm trees. So I could make this video and this story a lot shorter by just saying things worked out and I got through the border into Saudi Arabia, but I would be skipping over a bulk of the story, even though it's going to get kind of overly detail oriented, but it was a very confusing and lengthy process, and this also might be very useful information for anybody else who tries to do this as well, as far as specifically leaving from Doha, because there were a few points there in which if things hadn't gone the right way, I could have gotten stuck in a bad situation. So we arrive at the area where you're seeing signs saying customs, border, stuff like that. But there's like a roundabout, and there's a road going in and a road going out, and like a barricade between them. But I can see gates for the road going this way, but no gates on this side right here. But I realized that if he's going to take me in here, once he turns around, he's going to have to go through those gates again. But I don't see where else he can drop me that's going to make sense. But basically, he just starts driving in there. And so I decide, okay, I'll just let this happen, and somehow this will sort itself out. What I didn't know at the time is that you can't go over the border by walking. You have to be in a vehicle, and for a very good reason, because from the Qatari border to the Saudi border is 5 kilometers. And also, I'm sure just for security reasons and whatever, they wouldn't want people just going by foot. But anyways, you need to be in a vehicle. And an Uber driver from Qatar is not authorized to cross the border, or at least his specific, passport or whatever. I didn't know any of this at this time. So we get to a parking lot area and park. And I say to him, and fortunately I said this, you might want to wait in case I don't get through, and then maybe I'll want to get a ride with you back. And this was incentive for him, because then he gets paid going back, whereas maybe he doesn't actually get a ride and get paid anything to drive all the way back to Doha. And so he says, sure, he'll wait, whatever, 15, 20 minutes. And so I start walking, and then within a minute, then a police car comes up. And the guy says, you can't cross the border here. Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to explain what I need to do, which is that I need to go back out, and there is an area where taxi drivers hang out, and these taxi drivers are authorized to cross the border. And so you pay them to do the entire border crossing with you and then drop you on the other side. And so I'm trying to understand exactly what he's saying and where I need to go. And then he says, but first you need to go to this office to get paperwork, something like that. But then I'm trying to explain that there's this Uber driver that's right there. Anyways, ultimately he says, both of you need to go over to this office. And so what this was because of the gates that I'd mentioned, for him leaving, and now for both of us leaving, because I need to go back out there as well to get to the other taxis, then you need authorization, because now you're sort of in a no man's land, but you have security gates to go through. So long story short on this little situation, then he ends up escorting us. We get back in the Uber car, me and the Sri Lankan guy, and then he drives in front of us through those gates as an escort for us to get out. And so we get out, and the Uber driver, then drives me to the spot where the taxi drivers are all hanging out. And the car is immediately swarmed. These guys realize the guy sitting in the back seat needs a ride across the border, and like 5 or 6 guys swarm the car, all trying to get a job of taking me over. And they start off with a high price of 500 Qatari riyals. So I will put exactly how much that is down below. That's 150 bucks or something. And it's a very short drive. It's, a mile back to the border, the 5 kilometers, and then, so I have been in contact with Mohammed, who is en route now, and he is going to meet me on the other side of the border. There's a tiny little sort of a town there, which is just like 3 minutes further down the road. So it's a short little drive. I don't have a conception of how long all of this is going to take, and I have no clue what the fair price should be. This really is a peaceful area here and a great spot to tell a story. So The Sri Lankan guy helps me a little bit with the negotiations, and we managed to bring the price down to 300 Qatari Rial. I'll put how much that is, 80, 90 bucks, something like that. And I hop in the taxi of the other guy, and we start driving back to the border. Now this guy speaks basically no English, and so we go through the process of exiting Qatar, and that's all fairly easy, and then drive the 5 kilometers and get to the Saudi border. And so that is when things get really complicated. So we drive up to the line for customs, and it's like a fairly long line. We wait quite a while there, finally get through, and then the guy says, do I have a visa? And I don't. And he says, oh, well, you have to go back out to another office to get the visa. But the good news is that I can get the visa. Okay, I think I want to go back from here, because that is something that I wasn't 100% certain about. I was fairly certain about it from what I'd heard beforehand, and then the hotel reception guys had said that I could get the visa on arrival there, but still, you know, none of that is 100%. So that was simultaneously a real relief for him to say, well, you need to get the visa over there, meaning I can get the visa. But we now have a whole thing to do. And so we drive back to the office that he indicates, head in there, and there's quite a few people in there. There's like 3 or 4 lines. I start standing in the line, and then after a while I realize there is literally nothing happening here. It's not just moving slow, it is not moving at all. There are like some guys working there kind of milling around, but nobody is actually getting their visa. The line is not moving at all. And then eventually I hear some people talking, and somebody explains to somebody else in English they're praying or finishing their fasting or something like that, something related to either the praying or Ramadan, something like that. And so they'll be back later. And so we're just waiting for like 30-40 minutes or so, and then finally the actual visa people come, and finally things start moving. It's fairly confusing there. I have to do this line and then that line, but ultimately finally I get the visa. I'm not exactly sure how much I actually paid for it. When I was looking online, it was saying $300, which is by far the most I've ever paid for a visa, if that's the case. But then there was also like an expedited fee of another $100, and it was asking me about medical insurance for another $100. This was when I was trying to get it online and didn't manage to get it. And as it turns out, it's for the best that that didn't work, because I could have been stuck waiting for that to go through. But anyways, I'll put down below whatever I paid. I'll have to check my credit card statement and actually see what I was ultimately charged there. But finally we get the visa, and we get back to the line that we'd done previously. We have to do that again, wait in that line, get through there. There's like 3 different checkpoints that you have to go through in order to actually finally get into Saudi Arabia. But boom, it finally happens, and that is a massive, massive relief to have that out of the way. And so the driver gets me to the little town, and so I've been in touch with Muhammad all this while, and as it turned out, he got there way before we did, and he was waiting there for like 45 minutes or something. So it was a good thing that I got going when I did and didn't wait around thinking, well, I'm going to be quicker or whatever. So we find Muhammad, and then there was the issue of the payment. So we'd agreed 300, but I think the guy had agreed to that to just get the job, but he really wasn't happy with that amount because in the course of the whole thing, he's saying 400. But also, my situation extended the time greatly, like probably by at least an hour and a half or so of me not having a visa, and so him having to wait longer for that by like a good hour and a half or so. And so I was planning to pay him more than the 300 anyways, but I had kind of limited funds. So I had 218, something like that, Qatari rials. And so that doesn't get to the 300 even, not to mention something more than that. And then I had US dollars, $100 bills. And so once we get there, I'm thinking about, well, what am I going to pay him exactly with what I have? And realized I just got to give him the whole enchilada. So I paid him 100 US dollars and then gave him the whole 215 or whatever rials that I had. So all of this ultimately ended up adding up to actually a bit more than the 500 that they were originally trying to charge me. But I didn't have smaller bills, and it just wasn't even a priority or anything. Let's turn around. I have no idea where this is going. To try to get some change from him or whatever. I mean, at this point, 50 bucks one way or another does not matter. I'm out of there, and I was happy to give him a nice, generous tip for him helping to make this happen. So anyways, pay him, and then I meet Muhammad, and first impressions are great. Awesome guy. He's got a nice new looking car, and we get going. And so the plan then is to get into the U.A.E, and I've already told him that I like the idea of going to Al Ain, and so he's willing to get me to Al Ain that night, if that makes sense, or he's offered for me to stay with his family in his house in Abu Dhabi. So we'll kind of figure this out depending on how things go. So it's another almost 2 hours drive through Saudi Arabia to the border of Saudi Arabia and U.A.E. Totally eventless, almost nothing along the way there. It's just through stark desert. And so we cover that distance, get to the border, and it is super quick and easy this time. Exiting Saudi, it turned out that I did need a visa for U.A.E. I wasn't sure about that, but I knew that whatever the deal was, I should be able to get in, whether it was visa on arrival or whatever. I couldn't remember, and just hadn't gotten around to checking whether I needed a visa for U.A.E, but I was certain that I would be able to get through. And so I do need a visa, but it literally takes like 3 minutes, nice and easy. And so we get through, we're in U.A.E. Then we go have some dinner. It's getting late, it's like 9 o'clock by then. All right, so I'm in a different country now. I'm not going to explain now. There is much to explain. Having food here with a friend, I'll explain probably tomorrow. And then keep on driving. And the U.A.E is an hour later than Qatar, and so we kind of lose an hour there, and we have a long drive still. It's another 3 hours to Abu Dhabi, and so I agree to take him up on his offer and stay at his house there. And so we get there like after 1 in the morning, and his brother is there as well. I meet him, really great guy, and spend the night there, and then next morning get up, and all 3 of us drive to Al Ain here, and they drop me off, and that was an hour ago. So there you go. That is the story. And so I have tonight booked at this hotel, and I now need to kind of review my options and decide whether to stay another night here I have some time between now and that flight out of Muscat. I am definitely feeling like the best option at this point, for several different reasons, is to go ahead and get into Oman. And then even if that flight doesn't actually take off, I think that that is a better place to be waiting to catch another flight than here. Even though I really like Al Ain, and I feel like this is somewhere that I could just hang out for a while. And it is only an hour and a half or so from the Abu Dhabi airport. Okay, so you are here. Not really sure what all this stuff is. Moon Tides, Motherwell, Everdew, Dunes, the Grove. So I'm at the end. Did I just wander around here? A meaningful way to connect to the living world. So people are walking that way, but I kind of ran into a dead end. But I'm exhausted and ready to get back to the room and chillax and get to work on this here video. So I think I will just call that done, and then over this evening I will be thinking about what I want to do tomorrow. So there you go, that is it. I am feeling a lot better being here than feeling trapped in Doha. So even though I like the city, but not under the circumstances. All right, you'll see what happens in the next video. See ya. So there's a market over here. I would love to show it up close, but I want to be really careful about filming. And the bus station is near here. Now I actually recognize where I am from when I arrived back in 2017 and walked from the bus station over here. So I'm going to go to the bus station and try to get a bus ticket for 2 days from now. I wasn't able to book a bus ticket. I'll deal with that later, but getting some juice. Time to get back to the room and chill out. What a day. So I'm just about to get started editing this video. Was just doing a few things online and came across a post of another traveler who I follow, Alyssa Ramos of My Life's a Travel movie. She's more on Instagram and Facebook than YouTube. But I knew that she was in a very similar situation in Kuwait and was following her attempt to escape there. So let me read this really quickly. We successfully self-evacuated out of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. This was one of the most terrifying travel situations I've ever been in because she had 5 other people with me. She was leading a group tour with no help from the US government. Locals helped us get a driver to take us all the way through the danger zone of Kuwait, through the barren Saudi desert, and to Riyadh, which was also dangerous and where the US embassy had been bombed earlier that day. So here's the real clincher. As I finally boarded my flight out, they stopped boarding and announced the airport was closing due to imminent danger overhead. For an hour, I sat in the dark plane wondering if we would be struck by a missile or drone. Finally, we took off and I am safely out. But here's the point that I want to highlight. They stopped boarding and announced the airport was closing. Good thing that I didn't try to escape to Riyadh. That was why, because I knew about the bombing of the US embassy and that it was becoming a target, and that didn't seem like the way to go. So nothing is for certain under these circumstances, but at least I have more options and more safe places to hang out. If it comes to I can't fly out, then there's Al Ain here, a very nice city, and there are also places in Oman that should be just perfectly peaceful that I could go stay for a while. So I do have this flight out in a few days. Hopefully that goes, but if not, then this is a much better situation to be in than stuck in Doha, Qatar. So it's about 11 o'clock. I just went out and got some food at a fast food chicken place there to go and brought it back here. So it is Ramadan, like right in the middle of Ramadan. And so that means restaurants are open nice and late because, of course, during Ramadan, then they don't eat throughout the day. And then evening time, 5-ish or so, then things start to open up and people head out. So despite being kind of a quiet town and late, then there were plenty of people out and about out there. So here's what I got. More food than I need, but better too much than not enough. So we got some rolls in there. You can't really see there, but just some bread rolls that just came with the other stuff. And then got some chicken. It's basically like, you know, KFC kind of chicken. And some fries, and then some cheese jalapeno kind of ball, something like that, and more fries. And then a Coke that I won't drink because it's going to have stuff in it that I don't like. I don't do any caffeine, and I don't like the artificial sweeteners, Diet Cola, no way. But I have my own assorted beverages that I got at a market, some strawberry milk. This stuff was really delicious, a yogurt, and orange juice, milk. Unfortunately, no fridge in this room, apparently, unless I just didn't find it yet. Nope. That's a shame, but no biggie. There is a room here which I'm a little bit confused about what this is. Oh, yay, we got a fridge. Boom, there we go. I guess it's the kitchen, but it has a laundry thing there and a sink, but no oven or anything like that. So I'm not quite clear on what this sink is supposed to be used for if you can't cook when there's already a sink in the bathroom. So this place is $82 or 70 euros. The food was $9, 8 euros there. Anyways, that is all for now. I am pretty sure that I will stay again here tomorrow night, and then tomorrow, then it would be nice to do an actual kind of travel video as a little break from all the crazy stuff and show more of this city, which I've shown in a previous video or two way back in 2017 when I was here in Al Ain before, but it's been a while. So it would be nice to get out there and just do a exploration of this really cool and peaceful city. All right, take it easy. Good night.